Hello one and all, Jasper here, and you all know Game of Thrones was the real foundation for my love of fantasy, but it wasn't my introduction to the genre. That title goes to Narnia, and while my mother forced me to read the books, it just went in one ear and out the other. The closest I ever got to reading was comic books, and it was mostly because of the pictures, especially series like Conan and ElfQuest. Narnia was the first fantasy movie that made me take my first steps in falling down the rabbit hole of enjoying not just fantasy, but the medieval setting in general. Yet, after watching it recently with my nephew, I have to admit, a lot of the magic was lost, though I was still able to enjoy the film for nostalgic reasons. However, there was one exception: the Battle of Beruna, the climax of the movie, and there were so many baffling moments that I'm going to have to take Peter and sit him in the corner right next to Jon Snow as one of the dumbest military commanders I have ever seen. But what good is grounding and beating when the kid does not know why they are currently being introduced to the back of your hand? So, like any decent parent, I will of course go through the entire battle step by step and point out why the battle is honestly kind of dumb. Oh, also we'll be looking at some deleted scenes as well. Ready? No? Too bad, we're going to anyways. We start off by looking over the battle map as it slowly changes into the real-life battlefield. A cliche, but a damn good one. It's like a cape blowing in the wind or using an epic choir. Speaking of... I don't know what language that is, but I am ready for some heroic killing. Oh my god. Mr. Beaver in chainmail is so cute! Well, I know what my little crafting project is going to be now. The griffin flies down and warns the... I do not like how that beak moves. It's like it's made of flesh. Either way, he warns that the army approaching is bigger and stronger, and the right-hand centaur Aureus responds thusly.
Numbers do not win a battle.
Is the smart part of your brain located in your horse's ass? If the teenager next to you, whose only experience in war is having his house blown up by the Germans, then Jesus' persona must have been desperate to put you in a position of power. Eventually, we get to see the not-so... And behind him is the army of the White Bitch, aka the White Witch. All of them marching without any sort of discipline or formation, just a horde of angry, evil, Satan-worshipping simps. So far, I'm not impressed, but the battle's not even begun. Maybe I'm just jumping to conclusions. Anyways, we get things started when Karen's army decides to charge. No shield walls, no cavalry on the flanks, just everything rushing forward to violence. However, maybe that is the point. It's no secret that Narnia books are heavily inspired by Christianity, hence the Jesus persona and other aspects. So maybe we have something here. Those who fight for the White Witch are in a way servants of Satan, likely those who have given in to desires such as greed, lust, and wrath, and so have no discipline, while the heroes who are able to restrain themselves will likely be more tactical and disciplined and use that to overcome the enemy. If you watch the fight, you know there's some truth to that, but still, the good guys make some pretty big mistakes. Though, luckily for us, Peter shows off some of his war experience by swinging his sword, and at that moment griffins fly into action. Now you might think he was signaling the griffins to launch the attack, however, that makes no goddamn sense. Even with those eagle eyes, all those griffins are behind the mountain, and unless they got X-ray vision, they are not seeing that. Plus, they are already clearly in mid-flight, so really Peter's just swinging his sword to look smarter than he is. The flying beasts swarm overhead carrying boulders, and like the planes flown by the Nazis who bombed London, these griffins fly over the enemy force and let loose rocks to crash down onto them. Pretty good stuff. Black Bull here notices this and screams out for the archers to look to the sky. Pretty useless because it's unlikely anyone would hear you over an army charging and running into battle, but luckily these dwarves, little people knock, draw, and loose arrows into the sky. This would be more effective if the archers were grouped up together and allowed to fire in a volley to make it more difficult for the griffins to dodge them. Also, in a proper formation, the archers would be able to support the infantry better, firing against the approaching enemy before even the first rock is dropped. Bad guys be dumb. Now this here is our first deleted scene, and we see a group of my exes seeming to wait for permission to launch a counterattack. Why they were not set out in the beginning with everyone else, I don't know. Actually, speaking on that, I can understand why the pale bitch is in the back. Generals fighting on the front line is a recipe for disaster, but behind her is literally half her army. I get wanting to hold back some reserves in case you need to fix a tactical situation, but holding back half your forces is a bit much, don't you think? Okay, after that skirmishing situation, the good guys are getting ready to fight. Clearly, they will form ranks on the hill, taking advantage of the high ground while being supported by their archers from behind. Simple, but sometimes the simple and obvious choice are obvious for a reason. Good job, Peter.
For Narnia! And for
I take it back. At least there is some form of formation in this charge. Having the centaurs lower their spears for a frontal charge in a wedge formation looks like a good idea, until you realize those centaurs would be of better use using bows and arrows and harassing the enemy as they approach, especially since the literal Satan over there does not have any sort of cavalry-like force of her own. The closest she has is pale tigers, which are going to have a rough time catching a centaur, assuming they run as fast as a horse, that is. Even if you didn't have any bows and arrows, which is bullshit because we know you do, but let's pretend that you don't, it would still be better to use your speed to flank around the enemy, crashing into them from behind or the side. In that way you can stick a bastard with the spear and keep galloping along. But I will say, this does look really fucking cool. Even the slow-mo dual sword drawing with the swing sound effect. It almost makes me forget how much I hate dual wielding. Almost. Get rid of one of the swords and use a shield, you pointed-eared jackass. Wait, is that too much? Is that their word? Shit, I think I accidentally used a racial slur. Would it be a racial slur, though? Are centaurs a race? They're more like a different species, right? And you can't call me racist for insulting a cat, so I can't possibly be racist for insulting a centaur. Oop, dodged a bullet there. Anyways, we get a massive clash of swords, shields, and spears, and damn it, I love it. My brain is screaming at me how stupid it all is, but seeing a minotaur vibe check a horseman, a rhino slamming through bull people, a tiger just messing up a brony, it's just so fun to watch. But the fight has only just begun, as the Ice Puta begins to charge in herself with the rest of her army. Bet all those soldiers of yours dying would appreciate it if the help came sooner, but better late than never. In response, Edmund commits the cardinal sin of telling an archer to fire her arrow. But, considering that the arrow is on fire, and it bursts into a phoenix, this is probably the only situation where ordering fire is appropriate. Now we get some more deleted scene action here, and Nancy here, yeah, that's right, Nancy. I'm still salty about what you did, you cheating Arlian whore. Okay, I'm back and I've calmed down. Anyway, Nancy flies up in order to intercept said Firebird, and Peter, with his, week of training? Yeets a javelin at her and gets back to cutting down monsters twice his size. Not to mention, in the books, this guy is 13 years old. Did he do all this in the books? I know the actor at the time was 18, but still, this seems like quite a lot of bullshit for me to accept. Either way, this allows Talonflame to use Brave Bird and set a fire line right down the battle, resulting in the death of 1, 2, 3. Looks like a dozen? Give or take. Now, if Peter or Edmund, or really any of these guys, had enough brain cells to reach the double digits, they would have held their position when the first wave was coming, and once in range of the archers, launched the Phoenix to halt the assault, then turn them into pincushions. After all, the bleached bitch isn't there to instantly get rid of it, unlike this time where... Yep, that's exactly what one should expect. Peter then yells to his army to fall back and draw them to the rocks. Why they didn't just wait there to begin with is a wonder to me, but okay, maybe Peter got hit over the head off screen and it gave him the intellectual jolt he needed. Once we see them fall back, I become even more baffled as to why they didn't fight here to begin with. It's a narrow passageway that limits the enemy's ability, who, if we remember, have numbers far greater than their own, to flank and surround them. Didn't they teach you about the Battle of Thermopylae in those crooked-toothed schools of yours, Peter? Also, I hate to tell you this, Peter, but that unicorn of yours, it needs to be put down. I don't know if it's tired from all the fighting, or it got injured, but there is no goddamn way you should be all the way in the back like this. You're telling me goat people and little people that aren't even as tall as a horse's leg were able to overtake you. Speaking of, one of those dwarves is able to get a shot at said unicorn and take it out. You see? Me and him? We're on the same page. Do you think unicorn glue would be better than regular glue? Now I wonder what would Sindar glue be like. A question for someone with a darker and more messed up mind than my own. I also kind of find it hilarious that there are clearly some satyrs, or are they fawns? One sec. So apparently in Narnia, fawns are the more human-like creatures with the goat legs and ears, like Mr. Tumnus. and satyrs are the much furrier and animalistic ones. Neat. Anyway, there are clearly some fawns and satyrs right behind Peter, but when he falls and eats shit, they just keep running and leave him for dead. Such selfish pricks. And you call yourselves follower of Aslan? Luckily for Peter here, Aureus, with his super centaur eyesight, is able to see Edmund looking kind of worried. Definitely not the face of a kid about to watch his brother reenact Animal Farm. Either way, he senses his king is in danger and turns around to see it is true. And then alone, he charges into the fray. Oh, and there is this rhino with no name who gets like 3 seconds of being cool before being killed by these little ankle-slicing bastards. But Aureus leaps over the corpse of his comrade and gets to ass-kicking. And now we see the showdown we've been waiting for. Aureus versus... God damn it, 1 second. Ah, Otman. Good to know. Yes, Aureus versus Otman, the Battle of the O's. And how does this clash go? Well, Aureus disarms Otman easily, elbows him in the face, and then stabs him in the back. In the theatrical version. But don't worry, we have the deleted scene where Otman puts up a better fight, like slamming Aureus into the wall. And instead of just stabbing Otman, Aureus throws his sword into the air and then stabs him. You know, maybe the theatrical version is better, because I don't think I have to explain why throwing your sword like that is an incredibly dumb idea. Anywho, Aureus draws his third sword. How many swords does this guy have? With how crazy this all is, you could have just made him place one in his mouth while he was fighting. Aureus begins his charge to kill the pasty pansy. The smart minions get out of the way. Well, except for one, and look what happened to him. With that, Aureus leaps to slay the snow demon. However, despite her pale skin, she turns out to be part Tobago because she knows how to limbo. And this massive warrior is defeated by a one-hit magic KO stick. Now that shit needs to be nerfed. The fight continues, and it's back to mosh pit chaos. No formation, no plans, just kill the first thing you see. And we have these teenagers taking down men who are half bull and likely weigh over 300 pounds. Impressive to say the least. Peter tells Edmund to run away. Edmund does it for about, 2 seconds before changing his mind and making a beeline to the Witch White. Though with the deleted scene, he does use his lightsaber to cut through the little minion dwarf who's been a right bastard to him. When he gets to the evil queen, he screams before attacking and, well... Sneak attack! Not that it matters, as she thrusts, he sidesteps and just breaks the damn thing. Honestly, that jump should have just been deleted. Either way, the mayonnaise Karen easily disarms him and prison shanks him. This puts Peter into a rage, and we get possibly the greatest fight ever put to the screen. Peter in his rage charges into battle with only revenge on his mind. He bats away a furry with no effort and shows his mastery in combat, swinging wildly like a kid playing with a stick in a front yard, his shield held back behind him, leaving him open to be attacked. Yet the queen overpowers him and gets him on the ground, and is smart enough to not stab him while he is defenseless, as clearly it was a trap. Again, wide attacks that are nowhere close to hitting her are used. Finally, an opening is made, the only opening in the entire fight, and the queen thrusts her sword to his throat. Yet Peter turns out to be part Jamaican. His limbo skills are not as impressive as her own, but it's enough to dodge the killing blow. Realizing a killing blow is impossible for both warriors, they choose to only aim at each other's weapons to shatter them and thus make their opponent defenseless. Genius! Yet, sadly, this masterful fight is cut short when Aslan arrives. Yay, it's Army A getting swirlied by Army B until Army C saves the day. You all know how much I love that trope. Real fast though, can we talk about those massive steel balls Mr. Tumnus has for running into battle without any weapons or armor? Take notes, kids. Only cowards wear protection. Peter and the Queen of the KKK keep going at it, and eventually she trips Peter. Now, it might look like she stabs Peter in the arm, pinning him down, but actually you can see in the next scene she actually missed, and Peter, being a gentleman and simp, didn't want to embarrass her, and so gives her the win, which forced Aslan to leap in and save his life, as Peter was using his head to think, just not the right one. And that is the Battle of Beruna. And is it a bad battle? Yes. Is it worse than the Battle of the Bastards? Maybe. Though honestly, I find myself far more forgiving of Narnia in this case, as its battle really is just so much more fantastical. I mean, think about it. Is there any other fight that has centaurs, minotaurs, ogres, fauns, werewolves, cheetahs, tigers, gorillas, boars, minoboars, cyclopses, and so many other creatures fighting? Though maybe it's just my nostalgia talking. But I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Do you like the Battle of Beruna? Is it a better or worse than the Battle of the Bastards? I would love to read what you have to say. Until then, stay safe, and I'll see you all next time.